In 1934, life for my great-grandmother, Josephine Murphy, was a constant struggle to maintain her working-class household. With 5 children and endless chores, her days were consumed with cooking on a wood-burning stove, scrubbing clothes in a wringer washer, and trying to stretch each dollar. Among her children was Peggy, the youngest of 5 sisters, a spirited 16-year-old, who began to voice an unsettling fear. She was convinced she would die soon. At first, Josephine dismissed it as another plea for attention from her dramatic youngest daughter. As Peggy's fear of an early death grew into an obsession, her pleas could no longer be ignored. The family, steeped in their Irish-American roots and superstitions, sought help from their local parish priest. In the solemn interior of Sacred Heart Church, Peggy prayed for answers. Despite the priest's prayers and reassurances, nothing could quell her dread. Peggy remained certain her days were numbered, though she could not explain why. Perhaps what fueled Peggy's fear was the family's history with the supernatural. Peggy's grandmother, Mary, had once been a tea leaf reader, a pastime she'd inherited from the old country. One fateful day in 1918, Mary read signs of impending death in the tea leaves of her youngest daughter, also named Mary. Shortly after, young Mary passed away, either from spinal meningitis or the Spanish flu. It was a coincidence, perhaps, but to a deeply superstitious family, it was anything but. Mary swore never to read tea leaves again, yet the memory of that prediction lingered, haunting the family for years. As Peggy's despair reached its peak, her sister Catherine, the second youngest, decided that a distraction might help. Catherine, vibrant and 18 years old, was heading to the plantation, a swanky, dining and dancing establishment on the outskirts of Niagara Falls. She invited Peggy to join her and her date, hoping to lift her sister's spirits. Peggy initially agreed but, at the last moment, declined. Whether out of fear or a sense of foreboding, she chose to stay home. That same night, Catherine and her date drove down a winding, dark country road in their model of Ford. As they sped along the curves, the car lost control and overturned into a ditch. The wreckage was catastrophic. Catherine, despite suffering a fractured skull, survived the crash and was rushed to St. Mary's Hospital in Niagara Falls. But even as she climbed the winding stairs of the hospital, clutching at life, her fate had already been sealed. St. Mary's Hospital, built in 1912, was ill-prepared for emergencies. With no elevators or proper trauma care, Catherine had to ascend a narrow, spiraling staircase to reach the admissions desk. Though she managed to make it, her injuries proved too severe. Hours after being admitted, Catherine succumbed to her wounds. The tragedy shocked the family, overshadowing Peggy's premonition of death and silencing her fears for the time being. Days later, the family gathered in a fog-shrouded cemetery to lay Catherine to rest. The tragedy weighed heavily on everyone, but Peggy stood apart, quiet and introspective. For reasons she couldn't explain, her overwhelming sense of doom had vanished. Though she mourned her sister, it seemed that Catherine's death had somehow spared her own life. Peggy's life continued. Unburdened by the fear that had consumed her youth, she went on to live a full life, passing away in 2009 at the age of 91. But the events of 1934 left a mark on the family, reinforcing their belief in premonitions and the unexplainable. To this day, the story of Peggy and Catherine serves as both a warning and a mystery, a reminder of how thin the veil between life and death can be.